Alright, so first you need to set your project. We've already created a project folder, but if you don't remember, it's going to be under project window, hit new, name it, and choose a place to save it. Don't touch anything over here. And just hit accept once you're done. Next you're going to set the project. It's going to be the fish demo name and set it. I've already set my project. The reason we set the project is so all the folders come through together, and you can actually save in and out of Maya to the same folder without having to worry about where you place things or where you're exporting things to. Cool. So we have a new scene. If you don't have one, just create a new scene. Don't save. Once you have a new scene, we want to import the image that we've been working with. So hit the spacebar so that you can get the 4 views. If that doesn't work, just hit this here. It'll be the 4 views. Go to your side X. Make sure you go to side X and under View, Image Plane, Import Image. It should take you to your Sources Images folder and just hit your fish photo. That's going to perfectly bring the image to the center of the screen. It's going to be all centers XYZ so that we can effectively work. You might want to move this out of the way, so just hit W to do the move tool and move it towards the back over here. And the reason you do this is it doesn't actually affect your perspective view, but it lets you work in the middle. It'll make a little bit more sense later. Put that in its own layer by pressing the right button here, create a new layer, and assign selected object. You can see the objects in the layer, and just lock it. So put R. It's a reference object, so when you click off of it, you can't click back on it again. And this is so you can move stuff around it without messing with the original image. We're going to expand the side X by pressing space bars while hovering over the bottom right corner, and we'll get this. You just zoom in, and we can start modeling. First thing is we're going to make a box. There's your box. Go to vertex mode. Slide select. Don't just click it. If you just click it, you'll move one at a time, which will mess up your fish. So just select the slide select to select the corners. Hit W to get the move tool, and just move it around to each corner of the face and the corners of the back. Cool. Just double check that you move both. Great. Next, we're going to insert some edge loops. If you haven't done so already, hold Shift or go to Edge mode. Maybe click an edge, Shift, right click, and then look for it says Insert Edge Loop Tool. That'll change the tool set over here. You can middle mouse drag this to the top over here. I use this tool a lot, so it's good to have it around. I've accidentally put it multiple times already, but yeah, that's the idea. You just middle mouse select and drop it off in this area. And with the insert edge loop tool, you're just going to kind of put one edge right where the fin starts, the dorsal fin, and one where it ends. And then we're going to go back to W, which is the move tool, switch back to vertex mode, and move these guys to these corners here. Just trying to shape out the fish first, give like a very basic shape of the fish. Now we're going to add a little bit of resolution to make the fish look a little bit more rounded. I put one here between the first and the second, and one here in the last two options. Again, hit W for the move tool, vertex mode. Choose this top vertex over here that you just added and move it up to the shape of the fish. Bottom, right here, there. Cool. So now that we have a little bit of resolution to our fish, we kind of see it's kind of shaping up now. Next thing we want to do is we want to give it some side resolution because our fish is really flat. So again, you go to edge mode, and then just somewhere near the middle, put this line here. It should automatically be selected for you. Hit R for the scale tool. If for whatever reason your fish is your line that you just created is not selected, just double click the center line. Anytime you have an edge loop, and you want to select the entire loop, just double click it. And once you have that, just start scaling. So using the side panner, just pan sideways. And your fish should kind of have that kind of shape. We're going to add another line. Don't need this right now, so let's make it bigger. One up top, scale it, give a little bit more roundness to the side of your fish. Once again, insert edge loop tool to the bottom, make it a little bit bigger. And now when you look at your fish, you can see that, you know, you get a little bit of roundness to it. You get a little bit of, it's starting to shape up. The last line that we have to add at this point is going to be the vertical line. So go back to insert edge loop tool. You can do over the top Y view and just put one somewhere in the middle here. What you're doing is you're adding one on the top. Now to put that perfectly in the center, we're going to go to the move tool, and while holding X, you're going to move it left and right. What this does is that it snaps it to the grid, and we just want to make sure it stays somewhere in the middle, and this should snap it to the center line in the middle. So now you should have a perfectly centered fish. Okay, so once you have your your line centered, just select the line and hit R for scale, and just make it a little bit bigger, just to give it that little roundness to the fish. And that's about it. Before we go on to the face, I just want to fix the back here. Just select these lines back here to make the, like what makes up like kind of like the butt area. And just once you select all of them, just scale it in a little bit, just to give it like a more fish shape. Just make it so it's not such a big thing back there for the fins, and then just select the next one and slow, you know, give it a little bit more shape. That's okay. And I want to exaggerate this a little bit more, so just select the center line again and make it a little bit bigger. Cool. Alright, so we're moving on to the face. Next for the face, you're just going to go and select the face mode. If your faces don't look like this, where you have dots in them, that's the face select mode, center face select mode. And the reason I have that on is because it's easier to select the faces this way, or make sure that I select the faces that I want, not just like random faces. So if you shoot the corners or anywhere else on the face, you're just not going to select it. You have to like select the center, and it also highlights the faces so you know exactly what you're doing. So in order to get this on, just go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, and then go to the Selection tool, where it says here, and then just select Faces with Center, and hit Save. And if you haven't done so already, just hit Undo, Infinite. Let's make sure you have infinite undos just in case you mess up. Cool. So once you have that going, we're going to select the front faces. If it gets difficult to select the other faces because of the tool, just hit Q so you can not see it. So shift, select the rest of the faces in the front. You'll have these guys here. And then we're going to shift right click, extrude. You can tell you extruded because you have these new faces now in between. That's also a good way to tell if you've messed up and left faces behind. If you see this in between like faces, and you know you have a problem. Hit W to move it. I don't like using the that tool that comes with. I tend to mess up when I use it, so I just hit W for the move tool, and I'm just going to move it a little bit past the eyeball here, so just right here, right in front of the eyeball. And then I'm going to scale to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to go up a little bit. To me, that looks good. There. Cool. So next we're going to do the top of the lip and mouth. Just select the top 4 faces of the front of the face, and we're going to extrude, W to move, and we're just going to move it to like right here, and then scale it down with R too much. We're going to also scale it in a little bit so it's not so like extreme. A little bit wider. A little bit bigger. Doesn't have to be so small. Cool. So now that that's done, select the bottom 4 faces. Shift, select, next, next. So you should have just the bottom 4 faces selected. Once again, shift, right click, extrude, W to move, and we're going to move it right out there. And we're going to scale it way down. So hit R for scale, just use the side one and scale it in because it's kind of like a beak a little bit. Scale it down maybe a little bit. Hit F to center on the face. And you can kind of see it's like a beak. It's a little beak-like. Let me see if it's shaped properly here. W. It's probably a little bit too high. Maybe there. We're definitely going to scale it down. Very small beak. So you should have something like this. It'll look kind of funny up here for now, but we're going to fix that in a minute. So once you have the bottom that's kind of like a beak and the top that's a little bit wider, but not too wide, not as wide as the whole fish, just select the top 4 faces plus the inside mouth of the top faces and also the bottom here. So you should have a total of 8 faces selected. The top front faces that were right in front of the fish, and then the 4 inside the mouth. And we're going to extrude. Hit R for scale, and using the flat tool here, top right corner, we're just going to bring everything in a little bit. It's just going to give us a lip. And we're going to bring it this way a little bit more too. Bring it in a little bit. That'll give us a lip. And then with the same faces selected, we're going to extrude again. Hit W for the move tool. And we're going to move everything back a little bit and down. And what it's going to do is going to give us our mouth. When we hit spacebar, just make sure it's not too close to the eye here. That's okay. That's good. Maybe a little bit in more. There. Cool. So 5. Let's see. Cool. So with that, we should have our mouth done for the fish. There's probably 1,000 different ways to make that look a lot better, but for now we're just going to leave that like that. Your fish has a mouth. Okay, next we're going to move on to the eyeball area. So how we fix that is we go to side view. Notice how the fish has, like the way right now has just one for the mouth, kind of one edge for the mouth, one edge for, like, let's say the head. We're going to add a lot more for the eye. Not a lot, but we're going to add a few more for the eye. And we're going to make it a little bit more functional. So first we got to go to vertex mode. Hit 4 so you can see what you're doing. What we're going to do, I noticed I made it a little bit bigger than the actual fish. That's okay. We'll just leave it as is. We're going to move these vertices that were part of like the head part. We're going to move these kind of out of the way to actually build the head out of it. So this is going to come off here. And you're dragging, selecting, you're not just clicking. That way you're doing both sides at the same time. And you can kind of see it already has a head kind of shaping up. I'm going to move this one up a little bit so it keeps that line. Yeah. So you see the fish head's kind of building, and then it still has the mouth. So we're basically going to add 2 more vertices, edges there. First edge is going to be like near the front of the eyeball here. We're going to add another one to the rear of the eyeball right here, around this line right here. And we're going to add one right in the center where the eyeball is. So your fish should now kind of look like this. You had the original first one by the mouth, one for the head, and now you're going to add one right by the mouth, another one behind it, and then the center one for the eye. and we're going to go to the vertex select mode, and what we're going to do is we're going to move these around a little bit too. This is actually okay. I kind of like that shape there. This one we're going to move a little bit, just to careful not to select the mouth in there. Just kind of move around it. It could go through it. It's okay. It's not actually over it. This one I'm going to move forward a bit. The one for the mouth. And yeah, just give it a little bit more space to work with. Cool. This one we're going to leave right there in the eyeball. We're going to move it probably closer to the center of the eyeball. And your fish should look like this now. Like, wow. You can kind of see what we're doing now with the little yellow things are going to be the eyeballs. And how we do that, super simple. Just select those. If you select it from the side and shift, or just drag select, what you can do is just shift, right click, chamfer vertex. And what that does is it splits one vertex into 4. The only problem is that it created a 5-sided shape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to fix that in a minute. Drag select these to move them. Cool. And now you have a 4-sided eyeball. You can tell it happened on the same side, on the left side as well, because you have it selected. So now we're going to fix that. How we fix that is with this tool called the multi-cut tool. It's up here. Click on that. It looks like a little scalpel knife. But before we go on, we have to turn on symmetry. If you follow the steps exactly how this tutorial went, you should be on the symmetry X option. So what you can do is just turn on symmetry to object X. And what happens is that everything that happens on the right side will happen to the left. And you have a live preview, so it should show you exactly kind of like what's happening. If you don't see 2 things happening at once, you either have the wrong symmetry or you did the tutorial wrong so far. And I would go back and start from the beginning. Remember, you start your fish from side X. That's where you put your reference image, side X. Cool. So to fix this, we're basically going to cut this from half of the square that makes the eyeball to the corner. Normally, you don't want to make like a vertex hub or like a lot of you don't want to terminate these vertices into other vertices that are more than 4 sides, but sometimes it's okay to do this. In this case, there's not a lot of animation happening in the face of the fish because fish heads are typically rigid, so it's kind of okay to do. What's not okay to do is to randomly just click around, because that's going to make weird vertices. What you want to do is you want to make one cut from the middle of the box directly to the vertex, and the vertex will highlight blue when you hover over it to make sure you're doing it right. So just cut half the box, go to the corner, and hit enter to create the line. Same thing on the top. You can kind of see it in the background building on the other side as well, which is great. Oh, you don't have to do it twice and everything kind of matches. One here, one there, done. Cool. Let's double check everything worked on the left side. It's not always a given. And for now, hit W to get off of that, and you can turn off symmetry for now. We're going to go to the side view again, and these new ones that we have here, go to vertex mode, drag select. Again, don't just click select, because then you'll do weird stuff like that. Just drag select and kind of round out the eye as much as you can. You know, move these. Now that you have all that awesome new geometry that you created, you can move it around to give you more detail. And you should have somewhat of a rounded eyeball. Somewhat of a rounded eyeball. But now you have a giant face in the middle. So how we fix that is you go to face mode, select the face, select the other face. We're not going to do symmetry on this one, just makes the modeling a little bit easier. And we're going to Shift, right click, extrude face, hit R, and we're just going to kind of bring it in a little bit just to give it a little bit of a lip. And then using this side tool here, we're going to scale it in. And scaling it in basically is going to make that both of them kind of move in towards each other, kind of like that. And once you have that, you should be done here. To fix that face, you go back to that scalpel or the multi-cut tool, and you're just going to cut from the top to the bottom, hit enter, so you made 2, and then from the left to the right, enter, and now you made 4. I forgot to turn on symmetry, so let me undo that. Object X, left, left, right, top, bottom. Cool. And now they should both be perfectly the same. Cool. And with that, you are done modeling the body of the fish. Cool. So next step is to do the fins. So to create the fins, you go to Create, Polygon Primitive, Plane, but don't hit Plane, just hit the option box, and you should have these settings. Width and height division should be 2, and your axis should be X. And then hit Create. You won't see it because it's in the middle of your fish, just drag it up. Cool. So we're going to do the fins now. To do the fins, go to vertex mode. Actually, object mode so I can move it. And then we're going to go to wireframe view so we can see what we're working on. And just go to vertex mode. And again, just move the vertices around. A lot of modeling is just vertex moving at some point. But that's how you do it. There's really no way around it. Make sure you don't do this right here, where the actual, like the color, the shaded part of the, when you go back to shaded view, if the line is lower than the shade, that means it's like a inversed face. It's kind of an issue, so I just stretch it out a little bit till it goes back to normal. And just leave it at that. Move this guy here, give that shape. So it doesn't want to cooperate. It's okay. It's going to be more triangular. Cool. So that's one. Now when we just hit the create here, it'll create with the same settings we had. So I'm going to create a new one, move it down here to the bottom, and we're going to vertex mode 4 so we can see what we're doing. I'm just going to move these way up here. Just shape it to the shape of it, of the fins. Oops, sorry. It's close enough. Next one, again, just create it, move it. This one we're going to tilt a little bit just to make the model a little bit easier to work with. W vertex mode, and hit 4. And lastly, the one in the back. So this one's going to be kind of similar. You're going to create a new one, you're going to move it back there. Let's move it in here. However, this one, there's one extra step once we get it in shape. So we're going to move this one out here, just up top. And then once you kind of get the shape of it here, you're going to go to edge mode, and then the insert edge loop tool. And you're going to insert an edge on the top half and one on the bottom half, and you should have this by the four squares at the end of it. And the point of that is so that we can extrude parts and give a little bit more resolution up here. So go to edge mode, select the top two edges, so select the first edge, then shift select the next edge, and then hit extrude edge, W to move it out of the way. Make sure you move them individually, that way you're not, you don't extrude like the whole thing backwards, just one top, one bottom, it just splits it up. Vertex mode, and just select the vertices and kind of shape the fin a bit. It's going to be a little triangulated, it's okay. It's quite alright. Go back to edge mode, 1, 2, extrude, W, vertex mode, select, just move it to its like little triangle, just do that, and that's close enough. Okay, last one left is the center one, so we're going to create a new one, and just don't click off of it, just move it to like where this goes, and off of the fish hit vertex mode. If you do it over the fish, your fish is going to have vertex mode on it. It's going to be a little bit weird to work with. And just kind of move the vertices around again. This one here. Okay. And when you go back to 5, oh, you don't see it. Oh boy, what's going on? It's because it's inside. Just go to object mode and move it. There you go. But when you move it out, just give it a little bit of a turn. Look into your front view. See what looks nice and pretty. Just move it back into place. It's okay to go through. Cool. So you got one fin done. You got the rest of the fins, and then all we're missing is the eyeball. Save if you haven't done so. If it goes to source images for whatever reason, just hit up here and then go to scenes and fish videos tutorials, what I'm calling mine. Save. It's going to replace my old one. Done. Okay. So next, we're going to do the eyeball. How do you do the eyeball? Just go to circle. It's going to create like some weird giant circle over there with a bunch of sides. In the input channel, if you don't have one, it's going to be hiding here somewhere. Channel box, just hit that, and it should pop this up. Where you see this, you see inputs area, polysphere 1. Select both of these and just make it 10. We don't need all that resolution. And the radius, we're going to do 0.25. We're going to move it over closer to the eye here. And then we're going to also spin it. So hit E to do the rotation mode. And then find this one that kind of rotates it this way. It should be your rotate Z. That's usually how I test stuff. Like if I wanted to turn this way for whatever reason, I like to test things. So I just hit one of the sides and see whatever moves. In this case, X is what's rotating, but we need Z rotation. So on Z, I'm going to do 90 degrees. Bam. Turns looking out. Hit W so you can move the eyeball again, and then the flat view, move it towards like the eyeball, and then just push it in. this case you want to push it in, so that hit F to center it. And then you want to test it, just hit E for the rotation and make sure like nothing pops out kind of funny. It's okay to go through the eyeball a little bit, the eye socket, but not through the rest of the skin or anything. And if that looks good, which for me it looks good, I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to go back and rename everything. So this is the fish's actual left eye. So I'm going to call it fish eye, that's not spell eye left. And then I'm going to name everything else. So fish body, fish dorsal fin, fish, I'm just going to call it side fin. You guys are welcome to look up the real names of these fins and name it such. I know this one's the fish anal fin, but I'm just going to call it a fin. Fish back fin. Which ones are bigger? They're called side fin. Oh, that was actually the bottom fin. Fish bottom fin. Side fin. And the fish eye. Cool. So these two are kind of going to need to get moved. So I'm going to do one at a time. So I'm going to do the eye first. So the eye, I'm going to go to the top view. And I'm going to hit D to move the axis point. And I'm going to hold X while I move it sideways. So this lets me snap to the grid. And I'm just going to snap it to the center point. Once it's done, hit D, take it off. Go back to your 3D view. And then hit Control D to duplicate. You see fisheye left here. If you don't see this here, it's right here. And if you don't see it when you click this for whatever reason, it's going to go under Windows Outliner. And that's that. So I've duplicated my eye. And what I'm going to do, actually before duplicating, go back. I'm going to freeze these. So go to Modify, Freeze Transformations, and should zero everything out. Now I'm going to duplicate it. Everything should still be zeroed out. And then since I moved it already, I'm going to do -1 on X. And the other eyeball should be there perfectly where it should be. I'm going to call that fish eye right. Now we got to move the center points again. And the reason is because if you try to move the eye there, if you want to like animate the eye moving or something, it'll be out of the fish. So how you do that is you select one fish eye at a time. So I'm going to start with the left and then go Modify Center Pivot, and I'll put it right back to the center. Same thing with the other one, Modify Center Pivot. Cool. And we're going to do the same thing with the other fin. So we're going to freeze these transforms, Modify, Freeze Transformations, everything's zeroed out. Go to the center point here, D, hold X, move it to the center point, D again, and then I can even do it in this view, just Control D to duplicate, and then -1, bam. And I should have 2 fins. And we're going to move these back to their original pivot point, so just go Modify Center Pivot for fin. I'm going to call this fin right, and side fin left. And to move this, just select it, middle mouse button, and drag it up to under it. If you drag it into it, it'll become a child of it, so don't do that. So just put it under. You'll see a line come up under it. Don't go with the square line. Okay. And I think I have to do the same thing. Yeah. So modify freeze transformations. Cool. So with that, your fish should be modeled. You have a mouth, you have an eyeball, 2 eyeballs, you have the fins on the side, and you have all the other fins. This kind of looks okay back here, not terrible. Cool. Last thing you have to do is save your project. So again, hit File, Save As, name it something important. So for me, it's Fish Video Tutorial. It's done. If you should have named it already as this, so you can honestly just hit Save, and that'll save it. And once you're done with that, what you want to do, it'll save all your history and everything. What you want to do is File, Save Scene As, and then we're going to call it UV. So whatever you had the name for before, just add UV. And that's the next step, which I'll upload later. And for that, before we do that, delete all by type history and hit save. Continue. And that's it. So I'll be uploading this video and then the next one with the UV part and the texturing next. Have fun.